to another episode of the Outside Insider podcast here on Philly Sports Network with myself, Liam Jenkins. Happy Thanksgiving for yesterday. I mean, we're a day late on that one. But it's a thought that counts, right? It's a sentiment. I can't help the scheduling. But here we are. We're breaking out everything that's happened in the last 5 days. It used to be 7, but now you guys are getting 2 podcasts a week. Now, if that's not treating you, if that's not a Black Friday deal, I don't know what is. But as a limited edition thing for today, for Black Friday, if you subscribe to the podcast, it's free. I mean, it's free anyway, but I'm just really trying to incentivize this. Because essentially now, what we've had is, I had a quick look the other day on our subscribers, so I checked on iTunes and saw how many subscribers we have. We're over 100 now, which is actually a little bit crazy. I've been doing this show for 5 seasons, and now we're really starting to get some traction, and you guys on YouTube are just ravaging, like you're lapping this up. It's amazing to see. But if you're new, if you've not subscribed to the show yet, the only way we can smash ourselves ahead of the other Eagles podcasts, ahead of those other peasant shows in the market, the only way we can do that is with your support. So if you want to feel part of this fan base, it's like Philly Sports Network Nation that's beginning to blossom, I need you to get in that description, hit that blue button, it goes straight to the Apple Podcasts or iTunes page, whatever it is. Hit that subscribe button there. It takes 13 seconds at most. Leave a 5-star rating if you're feeling extra flirty, and it really just does help us grow this podcast. On another note as well, if you're not subscribed to our YouTube channel yet, we're also really trying to get 5,000 subscribers by the end of 2018. Now, we're close. We're at 4,300, and if we have a look at our progress report, we're definitely trending in that direction, but we need you guys to step up as we are. So I'm doing all I can. You know, I've got a job outside of this. I'm giving you 2 podcasts a week, going to try and get 2 film rooms a week, going to try and start a Madden series, and writing daily articles for phillysportsnetwork.com. So, if we can step it up together, if I can scratch your back, if you can just tickle mine a little bit, it would be really, really appreciated. But let's get straight into the show, because if I'm honest, if we don't, I'm going to struggle. I've been to the gym 2 times in 3 days, and my body feels like it's shutting. Like, I feel high, like my head is just constantly spinning. Although I don't think it's healthy to have 198 beats per minute heart rate when on a treadmill, so there's that. So I might need to look into that. But the point is, you know, we're out here, we're making waves, we're trying to get that summer bod in December, nearly, or the end of November. We're just trying, you know, it puts it all into perspective. But it's been a big week for the Eagles. You know, they obviously had a struggle on Sunday on a game that we've spoken about, we've vented, we've spoke about Golden Tate, we've spoke about how this offense isn't producing, we've spoke about Carson Wentz, we've spoke about the defense. We've hit every nail on the head about 1,000,000 times by this point, so we can only look forward. Unfortunately, the future doesn't look much brighter either. Now, Thanksgiving obviously is a time to be grateful for everything and, you know, to share with your family. And for Eagles fans, there's still a lot to be grateful for, despite the fact this team is having a very, very underwhelming season. I wrote an article about this a couple of days ago on Thanksgiving on phillysportsnetwork.com, just to have a look back through and see what we really can be thankful for on what is really such a difficult period. You know, this team is sliding, it's not producing, there are question marks all over the field, but at the end of the day, to summarise that article, they're Super Bowl 52 champions, Carson Wentz is your franchise quarterback, you've got the best fans in the league. The main one, though, is that the NFC East sucks. And I mean, it is disgustingly bad. For instance, last night, the Cowboys and the Redskins played in one of the most bang average games of football I've ever seen. I mean, if it wasn't for Amari Cooper going out and exploding for, I think it was 136 yards on 2 receptions for 2 touchdowns, then it would have been a different story. Cooper's been a great receiver, but all that's done is draw comparisons. If they can incorporate Amari Cooper, why can't the Eagles incorporate Golden Tate? And I've done an article on that, I've done a video on that. If you're on this show by now, you know my view, you're probably either agreeing or you've got a good counter-argument. But the NFC East at this point, okay, if we take a look at, all I'm going to do is give you the records of all divisional leaders, and you pick out to me which one's the NFC East. 7-3, 9-2, 7-2, 7-3. 6-5, 10-1, 8-3, 10-1. Any ideas? Any ideas at all? Which could be the record of the leader of the NFL? Of course, it's the 6-5 Cowboys, who are tied with the 6-5 Redskins. So as much as you all love to hate Dallas, Dallas took care of business on Thanksgiving, beating the Redskins, and of course reducing that lead from 2-1. Now, while this temporarily means that the Cowboys are sat atop the NFC East, the Redskins, who are going into battle with Colt McCoy, it's not looking great. They've got to face the Eagles twice. That's their lifeline at this point. For the Cowboys, they've still got games against very difficult opponents. They've still got the Saints to go through. They've still got the Eagles to go through. They've got Randy Andy Luck, who I've been winning money on all year long. And then they've got the Bucks, who are the Bucks. But that's not exactly an easy schedule. That's 2 or 3 easily games that could be considered losses. So the Eagles are in a position now where they are literally, you've got that friend that is just that guy or that girl, hey, it's 2018, where they'll constantly screw their partner over, they'll constantly cheat on them, or they'll be arguing 24/7, they'll break up every week, their social media is full of quotes is, don't cry because it's over, but smile because it happened. And then a week later they're back together. That's this Eagles team. It doesn't matter what they do wrong. It doesn't matter if they concede 48 to the Saints, if they choke a 17-point lead to the Panthers, if they lose to it doesn't matter. Because somehow this Eagles team is in a position where they can actually win the division. Which is terrifying. Because could you imagine now if this team goes to the playoffs and has to face the Rams or the Saints? I think I would cry, actually, thinking that is awful. But I mean, it's plausible. And the thing is that this team is in a situation now where you've got players calling each other out or the effort out. Malcolm Jenkins saying it's not good enough. Jason Kelce saying that it's all different. Doug Peterson saying that, well, he's not speaking for everyone, he's talking for himself. And then you've got other players disagreeing. It feels like a bit of an odd situation. But I mean, to put it into context, here's another Liam story for you. So I say the term best friend quite loosely at this stage in my life. But we grew up together all through secondary school. And he gets with this girl, and then you don't hear from him for a solid 9 to 10 months. I think, like a solid 9 to 10. And then it goes on, didn't see him across my birthday. So he's totally wrapped up in this girl that literally just treats him like trash. I'm saying the word trash. This isn't good for my British brand. But it's to a point where one of my other mates went to visit him. And he said, I'm working away tomorrow. It's like a 40-minute round trip. And in the background, the girl said, it's 43. I looked at it earlier. So she tracks him on Snap Maps to see where he's been, where he's going, when he's home. And if he's late, they have a big falling out. So I let him do his thing. But they were one of those couples where they're constantly together and breaking up. And he ditches his friends. And as, the supporting group of friends, we all have to take the L and just accept it and be there when it falls apart. But you only give him so many chances, right? So about a month ago, he messages me saying, I'm really sorry. I've messed up. I didn't mean this. I've been a really bad friend. And I'm like, yeah, it's fine. I've only had a couple different problems this year. It's fine. Don't you worry about me. It's all about you. How have you been? We'll make sure. I'm going to dig up dirt. I'll be there for you. What do you need? And he's like, I'm going to break up with this girl. It's too much. I can't handle it anymore. I'm near breaking point. So I was like, okay, right. Well, do you want to meet for a beer? He agreed, and then predictably never met for a beer. Anyway, a few days later, his girlfriend puts on Facebook, can't wait to move into our new house. And I was like, well, that's a bit strange. Like, surely if she's done that much to you, I'm not going to get into gross detail, but surely if she's done that much to you, and you can't still move into the house, right? That's ridiculous. And so I message him, and I just asked, dude, what's the deal here? I thought you two were going to break up. And he was like, oh, we were mid-breakup. And I was like, well, what happened? She cried. And he literally said, she cried, so we're getting a house together. Like, I can't tell who's the bigger mug in that situation, but somehow they've got the house. That is the Philadelphia Eagles at this point. It doesn't matter what they do, how badly they lose, how many deficiencies or problems that everyone else in the world can see that they have, somehow, some way, they will end up in a situation where they can get to the playoffs. Because their schedule from here on out isn't even that bad. Because now you've got, depending on obviously Alex Smith or whether the Redskins decide to bring in a quarterback that's not Colt McCoy, who in my opinion is, although everyone views him as this great backup because he's been around for 10 years, I think he's thrown, 27 touchdowns, 23 interceptions going into last night. Not the hottest record in the world. But now the Eagles have got the Cowboys, the Redskins, after this Sunday. So you've got the Giants, the Redskins, the Cowboys. 3 divisional games. If they can somehow sweep them, okay, I mean, that is a win. If you beat the Redskins, you tie it. Regardless of what happens this weekend, you tie the record. Then same with the Cowboys. Then you've got the Rams, the Texans, and the Redskins in Week 17. And you're telling me that there is no way this team can make the playoffs? Like, they can. They shouldn't. They really, really shouldn't. But they can. And they've been blessed with whatever is eating this division alive. I'm not being funny, and I hate to be that guy, but even the Giants, the New York Giants, who have been playing football to the extent of me on Madden, okay, this season, all season long, they have been absolutely atrocious, have got a shot. Because if they beat the Eagles, they are then tied with the Eagles at 4-7. Okay, then that leaves them 2 games behind. Out of their remaining games, if we take the Bears out, which should be a loss, but knowing the Giants, they'll pull off some shoddy win. You've got the Redskins, the Titans, the Cowboys, the Colts. The Giants are one of those teams where they will play teams close. Like, they always play the Eagles close because Eli Manning is like the world's ultimate game manager. Now, fair, he's not very good at it anymore, but that's what he does. So just put it into context. Now, I know that is a huge wild card. I'm a betting man. I wouldn't go into my local bookies, put my puppy over the counter and say, right, stick that on the Giants to win, like the NFC East. But you have to understand, there is a legitimate chance, although it's very far-fetched, that if the Giants can rally and they can win their remaining divisional games, who are the Eagles, the Redskins, and the Cowboys, one of each, and maybe sneak a win over the Titans, maybe sneak a win over the... It can happen. We're in a division where a 3-7 team have somewhat of a chance. And that, to me, is terrifying. So make of that what you will. Say it's far-fetched, we all know it is. I'm not out here saying the Giants or the Eagles are going to win the playoffs, but can we just appreciate that it doesn't matter how badly this Eagles team falls apart on offense or defense, the NovaCare complex could burn down and they would still have a chance at winning the NFC East. Like, you could have Nate Sudfeld as a punter and they would have a chance at winning. Let's put Cam Johnson at quarterback at this point, but there is a chance they will win the NFC East. So remember that meme, that Nick Cage meme of, so you're saying there's a chance? Pretty much what's going on right now. So just, when we think about this weekend, just bear that one in mind. Again, guys, if you are new to the show, or you haven't yet subscribed, please make sure that you're hitting that subscribe button. Whether it is in the description below, whether it's on YouTube, be the real MVP and do both. It will be absolutely amazing. And again, I'm not going to get too soppy. I'll try and say it for the end of the podcast, but all your support really does mean the absolute world to me. So again, that's it. I'm going to try and maintain that sop for a little bit. That is my brand, emotional speeches. We've come to understand that now, but we're going to move forward because we have to talk about one key aspect of this game. And that is that if there is ever an opportunity for the Eagles to run the ball, if there is ever one game Doug Peterson and Mike Groves sit together and they establish the run as their game plan, it has to be this week. Because at this stage, all you can envision that these meetings of Doug Peterson and Mike Groves sitting together is Doug going, right, Mikey, buddy old pal, you little, oh, come here, you, right, what's the game plan this week? And he's going, all right, here's what I've got. And I go, right, come on, Mikey, hit it. And he's scrambling around, he's looking at his notes, he's trying to find it, and he goes, why don't, okay, hear me out. Just careful, Doug. Just give me a second. I know you've got that look in your eye, Doug. I know you've had a bit of a struggle recently, but just give me a shout here, okay? What if, for the 10th week in a row, we go out on offense, and all we do, instead of running the ball, instead of using the running backs, what if we throw short passes? I know, Doug, I know. And Doug's there going, Mike, we've tried this 10 times now. They're not working. I know, Doug. Just hear me out. Because the Giants play defense. And we start, if our ball goes back, our players are behind the ball. Right, says Doug. He's listening. He's scratching that non-existent beard. Can you hear me scratching mine? That ASMR level. Like, I can't grow facial hair. It's like my Movember, this, so. And he goes, if we have players behind the ball, and they're ahead of the ball, and we throw it to ours, we can use a battering ram and go through. And Doug throws his paper in the air, stands up, and goes, you're taking over my job in 5 years. You are my predecessor. You are going to be my Padawan. Come with me, Michael. We're going to get some ice cream. And that is how the Eagles' offensive meeting goes. Today, that has to be different. Because the Eagles just have to run the ball. Because if we look at it this way, all right, the Saints, I mentioned it on last week's podcast, or Monday's podcast, I should say, where Sean Payton comes out and says, well, what we tried to do was game plan for Carson Wentz, because when he throws between this many yards and this many yards, he has a bad record, and when he does this and this, he also has a bad record. Very understandable. And I don't care if you skew that statistic, or you look at it and say, well, most of those games were in his rookie season. Brilliant, that's absolutely lovely. The point is, Sean Payton tried to take away the run game to make the Eagles' offense one-dimensional and force Carson Wentz to put the game on his back and succumb to pressure, which he absolutely did, as we saw in the film room. The blocking was atrocious, he couldn't stay on his feet, he got very flat-footed in the pocket, his mechanics were a little bit off, and as a result, he tried to force the ball into too many windows and did a little bit too much. Like, he was trying to do too much with the ball in his hands. Now, if you're going to sit there and tell me that that is the Saints' defense, that's not a top 5 defense, alright? We are not standing here talking about a really strong pass rush. Although they have got some great players like, the Louisville Lumberjack, like I mentioned in Sheldon Rankins, this isn't Pittsburgh, this isn't Chicago, this isn't Minnesota. I would oddly put Dallas in there. It's the Saints. Do you know how many sacks the New Orleans Saints have this year? Do you want to have a guess? Just think about it in your head. If you think this after what we saw Sunday, like, don't think of anything else. I mean, they have 30. That's 11th in the league. That's not fantastic. That's all right. And you're telling me now that they're facing the New York Giants, who have 11 sacks in the league and the 21st ranked run defense, where they allow 4.5 yards per carry. They've given up 10 touchdowns this season. You have to. You've got to take the pressure off Carson Wentz, because Janoris Jenkins comes out saying Wentz doesn't look as good as he did last year. Well done, good observation. I mean, I don't really know what else you want to say to that. Obviously, recovering from an ACL, it's typically a 2-year turnover period. If you're sprinting around like Michael Vick, probably not going to look as fast, are you, Janoris? Come on. Is it Jack Rabbit? I almost called him Honey Rabbit then. That's Tyrann Mathieu, isn't it? He's not even a Jackrabbit. We're just going to call him a rabbit at this point. Just call him a rabbit. If you ever see Janoris Jenkins, just go, oh my god, the rabbit. Do you reckon that'd really annoy him? Like, if he's coined the nickname Jackrabbit, and he's like, oh, that sticks, that's cool, that's a really sick name. And you go up to him and go, oh, rabbit, the rabbit. He's going to get a little bit annoyed. Call him the bunny, and just watch his face just turn into absolute disarray. But the point is, he comes out, makes that comment, and while that's fair, you can see there's probably going to be some game planning, I would say, off of that, from the defense to put a focus on Carson Wentz. If this Giants defense cannot get pressure to Wentz, which they haven't been able to all year, they are giving up an average of 7.5 yards per play. Or passing attempt, I should say. I mean, that's fine. That's great news for the Eagles. If they then take that bang average defense and they focus it on Carson Wentz, and they try and close the pocket, and they try and blitz more, and they try and really, really hammer that pressure down, is this not the perfect time to send a running back like Josh Adams, who has now got 3 consecutive games where he's had a 20-yard run, just putting that out there, in case, maybe Doug or Juice or Mike has missed that one. Will that not be the perfect time to have him run all over them? Let's bear in mind that this Giants defense, although they were good against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and they were good against the San Francisco 49ers, they did just give up 151 rushing yards to the Bucs, to Peyton Barber, who this season has 500 yards and 2 touchdowns. I mean, it's not like Peyton Barber has been tearing the league apart. In fact, he's had 1 game to that level of execution. 1. He's had 2 touchdowns all year. The other one was against the Bengals. The other game, he averaged that volume. He had 19 carries for 85 yards. I mean, against the Browns, he had 11 carries for 30. That is true Wendell Smallwood production. So, the Giants aren't exactly the world's best run defense, okay? If you don't believe me, if that's not enough to get you to hop on board this Josh Adams hype train, what about the Niners 2 weeks ago, where they beat them 27-23? Obviously, Jimmy G sidelined. It was Nick Mullins, 124. Do you know who led the Niners in rushing? Matt Breida. Again, second season. It's been a good year for Matt Breida, but in the games before the Giants, he was averaging 3.7 yards per carry, 2.6 yards per carry, 4.4. And he averaged 5.9 against the Giants. The Eagles are in a prime spot to use their running backs. If Wendell Smallwood isn't getting the respect I say he deserves, he's just not getting respect. If he's not getting respect and defenses aren't stacking the box to stop him because he can't make it to the box, then send him in there because he's going to get to the second level. If you are struggling to move the chains and Josh Adams is averaging 5.9 yards per carry, why not get him in there? If you're struggling to move the chains and you do want to go on short passes, well, why not use the actual running backs instead of, I don't know, trying to force the ball to Golden Tate 8 times a game? Maybe that would be a good idea. Just a heads up. The thing is now, alright, if the Eagles don't establish the run this game, and I say that as if it's some last chance saloon, but it's not, because we all know the Eagles' game plan by now, and that is just letting Carson Wentz sling it for 50 times a game until hopefully he can get more than 7 points worth of offense on the board. But if the Saints' mediocre defense can game plan to get Carson Wentz out of his comfort zone, get him riled up, what are the Rams going to do? What are the Texans going to do? What are the Cowboys going to do after? What are the Redskins going to do? All defenses, in my opinion, are better than the Saints. And maybe they're not their secondaries because I've got a big crush on Marshawn Lattimore. Not like that. Just as I'm a cornerback guy. Although we've had this discussion where Chidobe Awuzie is like he was my ultimate draft crush from that draft, and it's so horrible seeing him do well because you're like, yes, Chidobe, my God, oh, for God's sake, oh, he's done it again. And it's every week, and that sucks because you get these draft crushes, you study these players, you get emotionally invested, and then you end up just hurt. Not a metaphor, just nothing wrong. But genuinely, the Eagles have got to step it up. Like, if they're going to do anything against the Giants, if they are literally going to get any kind of momentum, if they want to start fast as if they're Sonic the Hedgehog, like they've been preaching now for a year, it has to be down on the ground. It has to be pounding the run. Your receivers will get open when teams start respecting the run. No one is respecting the run because there is no run to respect. It's that simple. And let's be honest, the Eagles versus Giants cornerback versus receiver matchup isn't looking too pretty. We're going to break that down in a little bit as well. But genuinely, if the Eagles don't run the ball this week, if they do not commit to the run, not just run it a couple times like they did with Adams, where he scores a 29-yard touchdown, then the last time they use him is on a second and short. Like, no, none of that. Commit to it. Run on first down, second down, throw on 3rd and 5, bang, move the chains, go again. Commit to the run. If you don't commit to the run this time around, and you put it all on Carson Wentz's shoulders again, since the Jags game, frustration has been building in the head of Carson Wentz, and you can see it. I don't care if you say, oh, he's mature beyond his years, oh, he's just a fierce competitor. I'm a fierce competitor, but if I'm pissed off, if I'm upset, if I'm angry at my job, I'm obviously not going to do as good as I set out to do. And we spoke last week about Darren from Wicks, and somehow Darren has become almost like a cult icon already on this show. So we're going to go into another work analogy just to talk about frustration, because I think somehow you guys love Darren. And, I mean, that workplace in particular had quite a lot of Darren-level employees, to put it bluntly. So this one was, it was still a couple of years ago, but essentially, working in this DIY store where we sell cement and concrete and all the heavy things that my little lanky arms can't carry. We had a big order for a customer. I had like 50 bags of cement. So we're trying to take them off the shelf, put them onto a pallet, which we can take then into a delivery truck. And when dropping them down, one of my colleagues got very frustrated and put a hole in one of the bags with his, like, the kind of opening knife that we have. So the cement goes everywhere. I think he just got a bit angry because there was a lot to do and obviously workplace stress. So cement goes everywhere, and as the bag lands, it's another bag. So it's basically 2 bags of cement all over the floor. Okay. So we start trying to scoop it up with shovels and put it into a big plastic bag. We're there for about 45 minutes. We then think, right, we're finally glad that's done. Let's put this out in the yard. We pick up the plastic bag, and no joke, no word of a lie, the bottom of the bag falls through, and all of the cement goes back over the floor all over again. The guy walks out, goes home. Like, that was that day at work. It was the most iconic thing I've ever seen. Just helping him lift this bag up for its contents, just go right back through the bottom again, all over the floor. His face was absolutely priceless. So there you go. There's another story for you about frustration. But back onto topic. Carson Wentz has been getting invariably frustrated. I think that's been extremely clear for a while. And we look at his play moving forward, where he can't make those same errors he did against the Saints. And if defenses are going to start keying in on him and trying to marginalise him and force him to throw on the run where he hasn't been as strong this year, there are bound to be problems. There's bound to be times where Carson Wentz isn't accurate, or he is trying to force the ball into a tight window. Like last game, he threw 3 interceptions for the second time in his career. That is a rattled quarterback. As I said a few minutes ago, it started with the Jags. There was a sack against the Jags. He comes off the field. I was at the game. He was fuming. And you could see it was the end of a drive. It was a 3rd down sack. And he came off fuming. And I'd not seen him that angry before. And in the game since, it's happened again and again. So if Carson Wentz is angry, if teams are riling him up, he's not going to be the same quarterback. Which is why you have to run the ball. We know Carson Wentz can carry the offense. We know he can throw dimes all left, right, make all the NFL throws. This isn't a scout report anymore. There's no reason for him to throw 40 times a game, especially when you're down like 87 possessions to the Saints. So just run the ball against the defense that can't stop the run and prove that this offense does still have some optionality, that it does still have some diversity, because right now it is so one-dimensional, and that one dimension is just unproductive. There are drops, there are miscues, players are stopping on routes when they should be following them through, the speed's not there from certain receivers. If that one dimension isn't working, why are you continuing to hammer it down? This has to be an occasion where the Eagles run the ball, take the strain off of Carson Wentz, and turn this game into a time of possession matchup. Because let's be brutally honest, if the Eagles can't do that, and they can't keep the Giants' offense off the field, Eli Manning is going to go out there, and he is going to have the game of his life against a practice squad secondary. And you're really expecting Carson Wentz to keep up with no run game. It has to happen. I'm tired of it now. I think we're all tired of it now. They have to establish and commit to the run early. If they can't, forget the scripts, forget the screens, forget the short passes. This has to happen now. And that's all we're going to say on the matter. But before we move on to our final topic of the afternoon, it is time for what is rapidly becoming my favourite news section of the show. So I introduced this, must have been, I want to say 2 or 3 weeks ago now. And it's actually, 2 or 3 shows ago. It's actually been a really big hit. So all I do is I tweet, "Thank you next." And I ask for your Eagles questions. And the idea is I've got 30 seconds to give those questions an answer. As if I was an Ariana Grande ex-boyfriend that she's just sifted through and written a song about. I'm going to be answering your questions, but I won't treat you like an ex-girlfriend. I will treat you like my lovely little romantic princess thing. So there's that. No, I'm a great boyfriend. I reckon I'm a very good romantic me. I just get a little bit screwed over, I think. But that's for another podcast, my love life to this point. Although I'm pretty sure at this stage in my life, all of that, like my love life from the age of 0, I mean, nothing happened at 0, obviously. Actually, probably started at 13. From 13 to about 23, it's just destined to be written in a book. That I've just come to accept that now. So at age 40, I can be a multi-millionaire you know, New York Times bestseller for My Atrocious Love Life by Liam Jenkins. But anyway, on to Thank You Next. This is, again, the section of the show we read your questions with 30-second answers. So we're going to kick things off with Rene DeFibo-Hinnigan, I hope I've said that right, who asks, why is Wentz throwing so low lately? When the ball is caught, there's no opportunity to have any yards after the catch. That's a great observation, Rene. I actually did diagnose this in a film room. It just comes down to when he's throwing low, Wentz is on the run most of the time. He's not been anywhere near as powerful from his upper body because obviously I guess the ACL is still struggling. It takes a 2-year window to recover from that. But also that those frustrations are really ionizing his mechanics. So his footwork is nowhere near as mobile as it was a couple of weeks ago. His ability to scan the field, his ability to keep his feet perpendicular to the target, he's just struggling mechanically right now due to frustration. Thank you. Next, Garrett Diaz asks, top positions to look for in the draft. That's a very good question. At this point, I'm going to say defensive tackle because we don't know what Timmy Jernigan's status is going to be like, and we've already proven that there's only so many Trayvon Hesters you can get. However, offensive line depth is always good. We don't know what, you know, Jason Peters is doing after this year, especially considering Mailata could be a few years away yet from being able to play. Thank you. Next, Coopers the Great says, chance that Bell signs with us next year. Probably not, if I'm brutally honest. I think that was all overblown to begin with. From everyone I spoke to, there was never really any interest from the Eagles to begin with, and Le'Veon Bell didn't even know what he was doing. He's going to want a big contract. That's why he held out to begin with. I don't think the Eagles are going to be giving him that money. Thank you. Next, Rodrigo Ortiz asked, is Aguilar alive? Yes. Thank you. Next, Deprex asked, what are your thoughts on the Eagles' defensive scheme pre-injury meltdown? Do you think their struggles come from a lack of adaptability during games because of coaching? We've seen that the CBs can compete, but when does discipline come in with continually being beat downfield? I mean, that's a great question. I think that there has been some adaptability all year, though. We've seen Schwartz go from a 2-safety look to playing Avonte Maddox in a cover 3, having those 2 cornerbacks control 50% of the field. I think what's happened this year is that the pass rush hasn't been as strong. The cornerbacks are struggling on off coverage, and offenses are just picking them off underneath. The problem is that Schwartz has left it way too late to adjust. The biggest difference he can make, as I wrote about today on PhillySportsNetwork.com, is moving Malcolm Jenkins to safety. The Eagles are inundated with linebacker depth. They have got 5 defensive backs who are going to be out this weekend. They need Malcolm Jenkins in the game. Thank you. Next, we're going to take to YouTube now for this one. I put a post on the YouTube channel. So, Ikusa GT, why haven't the Eagles tried to get Wentz outside the pocket on passing plays with the subpar pass blocking? That makes sense. The problem is that Wentz on the run, trying to be mobile, is nowhere near as strong. Yes, he's sliding more and taking more care of the ball. He's also got more fumbles than he's ever had in his career. He's even struggled at just getting the ball out. He can't get the power behind the ball, the velocity behind it when on the run because of that recovery from the ACL. Thank you. Next, Justin Mueller. Why did I get banned on Twitter? All I did was call Kevin Durant. No, I can't answer that. That's not me. I mean, come on, Justin. Use your noggin here, sunshine. Thank you. Next, what can the Eagles do in the secondary? Not a lot, if we're brutally honest. There's not much they can do at this point. Again, I think the biggest adjustment they can make, Cameron, is to move Malcolm Jenkins back to safety and just provide some sense of backline serenity. Because if these corners are going to be getting targeted a lot, which they are, they're going to need a safety to come down and make a tackle, and Trey Sullivan ain't that guy. Will Jones, thank you. Next, are injuries playing a big part? Why not run the ball more? I hope we've covered both of those topics today for you. Why not have someone else do the play calling? Because no one really's got that job, and I think in the minute you give someone that responsibility, you're going to get all kind of weird repercussions. You know, if Jim Schwartz suddenly takes it to his DB coach and goes, right, you call the plays, I'm out, they're not familiar with those tendencies or game plans, or it's familiarity with that sort of thing. Just from a coach, it's like the same sort of thing as saying, why wouldn't let that Till worker be assistant manager? You could probably do it, but it's going to take a little bit of time to adapt and to earn the respect and everything of everyone else around them. Was the Eagles' run defense last year because the offense jumped out to a good lead in the first quarter, and bad this year because of the opposite? Dennis, I think that's a great observation. The problem is that through the first 8 weeks of the season, the Eagles' run defense was literally one of the best in the NFL. It was ranked top 3 throughout all of that, and they weren't getting out to big leads then. In fact, it was really surprising that they were doing really, really well, despite the fact they had all these other problems going on. I think at this point, the defense is just burnt out. You look at them, like Fletcher Cox is having to play the majority of snaps. You have to look around at who else is doing what, and the defense is, they just can't get off the field, and they're gonna get burnt out eventually. And finally, thank you next, Angry Eagles fan. Any hope for the season? I hope we address that at the very start of the show, because at this point, if the Giants have hope, I could have hope of winning the NFC East. So thank you for your questions, guys. If you were featured in that little segment, thank you next. Make sure to give me a little follow on Twitter to make sure you can get your questions in for next time. If not, make sure you're hitting that subscribe button as a little thank you for me trying to work out why Justin Mueller was banned on Twitter, which is fairly obvious from that question. But our final topic of the day is, I guess, quite a predictable one. We touched on it then just during that little sample. The Eagles have 5 defensive backs out against the New York Giants. 5. Mills, Darby, Jones, Douglas, Maddox, anyone else? McLeod's gone as well at this point. So their starting corners, if am I right in saying so, are going to be Chandon Sullivan, Devontae Busby in the slot, and Cravon LeBlanc. Wow, what a matchup for Odell Beckham, Sterling Shepard, Evan Engram, Saquon Barkley. It's going to be fun, isn't it, really? I can't wait for this. So, what can the Eagles do? We mentioned it then, just in that little Q&A part. Like, what can the Eagles actually do in this situation to combat that? And the only answer I can think of, honestly, is moving Malcolm Jenkins back to safety. He's been used inside the box all season long, and that's fine, but instead of moving an all-pro safety to safety, you put in a rookie cornerback who's never played the position, had very few NFL snaps, and you're going to start him as a 6th captain. When he goes down, instead of moving him to safety, you're going to start Trey Sullivan, who got cut for being bad after week 2, and Corey Graham, who should have been cut for being bad after week 2. Like, I don't understand what else this team really needs at this stage. They need a safety and a leader, because it all comes down to communication issues. Like, the safeties are the guys that get the corners lined up, that make sure they know their assignments, any audibles, any changes at the line of scrimmage they can pick up on, any extra detail. And if you're not getting that, because your safety is Trey Sullivan, and you're talking to cornerbacks who have very rarely been in a game time situation where those audibles and those, I guess, terminology phrases have had to come into play, you're going to struggle. It's all very well being on the scout team and being, alright, so we're going to call Philly, for instance. But then when you're in a game time situation and they go, oh my god, Philly, look over there, quick! You're expecting that corner to remember what that means from scout team, who's barely seen any NFL action. And you've got Odell Beckham with that stupid jokery visor, which is actually really sick. I really like that. Lining up opposite you, licking his lips at the idea of just burning you over and over again. Rasul Douglas couldn't stop Michael Thomas. What are we expecting Chandon Sullivan to do? This isn't a knock on any of these defensive backs. Like, I really wish him all the best. I love the game of Devontae Busby, although I still sound really posh whenever I pronounce his name. But that's a lot to ask, and I'm really not sure that the Eagles are going to make the necessary adjustments to give them the best hope of even having remote success. They need safety support. If you're going to play them off the ball, give them safety support. Let Malcolm Jenkins drop back into coverage. Disguise a cover 0 look. It's not hard. We saw the Bears do it, and it has worked out amazingly well for a certain defensive back by the name of Eddie Jackson, who has got 5 touchdowns, isn't it now? Eddie Jackson. They can do it. Why can't the Eagles? Seattle can do it. Green Bay can do it. Arizona's done it. It's not hard to disguise coverage. The Eagles can't do it. The defense is predictable, and without any kind of safety help, because Malcolm Jenkins is, stopping the run. Which is fine, okay? Don't get me wrong. Jenkins is having a great season. He's on par to record more tackles than he did last year. Brilliant, wonderful, couldn't be happier for him. The problem is, when you've got Malcolm Jenkins lined up in the box to defend the run and you allow 127 yards a game, I don't think that's working. Do you? And that's how we're going to end it. Look at that, a rhetorical question. Look at that for into a podcast. So we're going to call it there, guys. We're at 40 minutes now, but before we do just draw the line, I just wanted to say a big thank you. If you've stuck around this long, 39 minutes through me shouting about all sorts of nonsense, some of it Eagles related, some of it not, just a massive thank you. I know we don't celebrate Thanksgiving, but it genuinely means the world to me that we have this platform. To see this podcast now get a few hundred views on YouTube, to have over 100 iTunes subscribers, and to be in a position where our website is doing really well, it means the absolute world to me. I've been doing this for 4 years now, and to go from a guy that no one really respected, obviously I'm a million miles away, I was 19 when I started the website, to earn that reputation, to get that credibility, to earn that respect of people, even if you don't like what I do, that's the biggest thing. But to now have like a core of fans that love what we do, that want to embrace that, that want to be a part of that journey with us. Like, this is your channel, this is your podcast, this is your website, as much as it is mine and the team at Philly Sports Network. So don't forget, phillysportsnetwork.com. I have daily Eagles articles out there. We cover the Flyers where we're credentialed, we cover the Sixers, the Phillies, the Union where we're credentialed. Like, you don't want to miss it, okay? So phillysportsnetwork.com is where you can find all of mine and the other guys' content. And also, don't forget, guys, if you are new, if you haven't yet subscribed, one tiny little gesture can make a massive difference in getting this podcast some notoriety. So please hit that subscribe button in the description, rate it 5 stars, leave a little review if you want to, even if it is about Darren from my old workplace. It would genuinely mean so much to me. I hope you have the rest of a safe Thanksgiving weekend. Do get too drunk. You might need it for the Eagles game. Maybe you copped some nice Black Friday steals. I know Cyber Monday's coming up. Have a fantastic weekend, guys. Thank you for everything this year. For another episode of The Outside Insider, stay tuned to Philly Sports Network.